18th. That's Saturday, so you can be
Lights
there
are
the
on.
16th, 17th, 18th, and then the 19th after the breakfast meeting.
Scan with the gavel.
Okay. Okay, but
Wait to go.
it's that third week.
Move
Okay.
furniture upstairs. Yeah.
Those angels are cleaning.
I got to think about there is no
Okay, Mary, you ready?
on this part.
Mary.
Ready?
Oh, I'm ready.
Okay.
Get hydrated, sit down.
Let's go ahead and call the meeting to order, please.
Administration Operations Committee meeting, Monday, June 25th, 2018, 7 p.m. Heidrich. Aye. Holtmeyer.
Aye.
Moheski. Patke.
Here.
Pettit. Here. Skornia.
Here.
Sullentrup.
Here.
Waterman.
Here.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Will all the committee members answer if they have or have not read the minutes of the meeting dated May 29th, 2018? Heidrich.
Aye.
Holtmeyer.
Aye.
Hatke.
Yes.
Pettit.
Yes.
Skornia.
Yes.
Sullentrup.
Yes.
Waterman.
Yes.
Having read the minutes, are there any comments or corrections?
Make a motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Sullentrup, seconded by Patke, to approve the minutes from our last meeting dated May 29, 2018. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? By your vote, you approve the minutes. Thank you.
CTS presentation on the energy audit.
Okay, this evening we have two representatives from CTS, and you've been working on our energy audit, so come on up.
Okay. Thanks for your time tonight. I'm Ellie Blankenship with CTS. I'm the account manager for the City of Washington, and I also have Ryan Motes here with me. He's one of the engineers that worked on the project development with us. So what I want to do today was kind of review really quickly how these projects work, just to give a refresher because it's a little bit different, and then we'll also talk about our specific recommendations and then the financial summary of our recommendations, and then potential next steps. So there's legislation in the state. It's Missouri Statute 8.231, and it's basically an alternative procurement method for funding energy improvement and capital projects. The main concept behind it is that the savings from the project can fund the project over time. You can actually finance improvements for up to 15 years. You don't have to finance them, but you have the ability to do that. You could also just pay cash for them, and then your savings would be there to do with what you want. Or if you financed them, you would redirect the savings to fund that payment on an annual basis. What I like to do is look at it. I'm a visual person, so I like to look at it this way. On the left, you have your current energy and operational budget. During the project, that was reduced. So then the red, all the energy and operational savings, and then any grants and rebates that we can get for you would be reallocated to help fund the project. After the project is paid for, those savings go back into the budget. The savings are guaranteed, so we are going to measure and verify to ensure that we saved you what we said we were going to save you, and write a check if we fall short. The price is also guaranteed, so it's a guaranteed maximum price, no change order project. So we really take on the risk to make sure that this did what we said it was going to do. Where we are in the process, you guys did release a request for qualifications and proposals. I know some of you were on the interview committee that selected CTS back in November. And we were selected and your letter of intent was approved. And we actually got everything back to you right before the election just to kind of get an idea of what the costs were, but it really wasn't. This seemed like a more appropriate time because it would be considered for next year's budget. So now is kind of the time to bring all the options forward and have you guys evaluate them. So the next step, should you decide to move forward, would be to implement the actual projects that we have identified here. And then the ongoing measurement and verification to ensure that we saved you what we said we were going to save you. Any questions so far? Or? Okay. So the buildings that we evaluated for this study were the City Hall, Public Safety, the library, and the fire stations. And then we also did evaluate the auditorium and the pool house. just based on discussions with staff and with everything with the pool, you know, what's coming up with the pool, we've said those might be better to be considered for future projects. But then we have one project that we think makes sense to consider now. And that's in those top 4 facilities. So the base project recommendations, the main thing that has the majority of the savings and also some significant rebates as part of that would be all the LED lighting throughout all the facilities. That would be retrofitting, you know, any fixture that you have right now that's not currently LED to LED. That is in. And then, as you can see here, it's $60,000 estimated rebates for that part of the project. We also looked at some streetlights. You've done a lot of LED exterior streetlights already, but there were some still left to do that we have included in this. City Hall, there's some HVAC upgrades that we recommend, replacing the inlet guide vanes and the air handlers, which will help with energy, and adding variable frequency drives. And then the new web-based building automation system, the system that you have right now is very out of date and having difficulty with service. It's actually just inside the wall back behind here, and it's we're looking at more of a web-based non-proprietary system, so you can access it from any web-based computer. It will help a lot more with your maintenance staff for servicing and things like that. And then window replacements here in this building. You know, that's a fairly capital intensive project, but what's nice is that the savings from the lighting and all that other stuff is actually paying for that window replacement. So it's a good time to get that done. And there will be savings associated with that as well. And then at the fire stations, there's some HVAC systems that are in need of replacement that we're recommending at this time. So the total project cost for this base project is $583,000. The estimated rebates are $60,000. The first year energy savings are $20,000, and the first year ops and maintenance savings are $33,000. So savings over 15 years is a little over $1 million. So as you can see, this project does more than pay for itself. And even if you chose to finance it, it would still pay for itself pretty quickly. The additional projects to consider are more capital intensive, but definitely things that need to be done eventually, and that's upgrades to the auditorium, including a replacement of the HVAC systems over there, the condensing, putting a new condensing boiler plant, so getting rid of the very old boiler that's over there, and then 2 split systems for the gym with fabric ductwork, so you'd be able to add air conditioning in the gym, and then 2 split systems for the lower level. We also looked at tuck pointing and waterproofing that building, a roof replacement, window replacements, and new acoustical ceilings. One thing that we also talked through with staff was evaluating the option of converting the pool house to parks offices. That is just a budget at this time, but that's kind of what we estimated that would total up to. So your auditorium cost are around $1.4 million. There's $11,000 in energy savings and $5,000 in ops and maintenance savings.
Did you guys ever take in consideration of putting a geothermal system in that auditorium?
We did not look at that as an option, but I mean, that's definitely something that we can evaluate and look at from a price standpoint. I think we have some time on this one, it sounds like, just from a timing standpoint, so we can definitely look at that. And just a little bit about CTS. We are the only energy service headquartered in Missouri. We're right here in St. Louis. We have a dedicated local government team, and we've done more Missouri projects than any other energy services company, lots of cities. And we are vendor neutral, so we're trying, we're picking what's makes the most sense for your particular application, not anything that we, manufacture or distribute. We've done over $100 million in Missouri, and we have over 60% of our customers have done multiple projects with us. That's something that we're really proud of, that we continue to, they continue to come back and do more projects. Just like with you guys, we're looking at a potential phased approach. That's oftentimes how we can present it, let's at what makes the most sense from a timing standpoint. Some of the similar projects city projects that we've done is O'Fallon, Florissant, Baldwin, Richmond Heights, Maplewood, Ferguson, Shrewsbury, Hazelwood. Almost all of those projects included HVAC and lighting upgrades. Ferguson and included Ferguson and Richmond Heights included windows. We've done a lot of roof. We actually did a solar system at Maplewood. So
So was solar not, didn't seem like it was a good option for any of,
right now, the problem is that the rebates aren't available for the solar right now. So for you guys to fund it yourself, not necessarily. We could potentially look at like doing more like a power purchase agreement or something with an organization if that's something that you guys want to evaluate more. So that would be, someone would put it on there for you, so they get the tax breaks, and then you just pay them for the utilities. So that might make sense, but owning it yourself, probably not at this point. So what really we'd like you to do is consider approval. I mean, not right now, but talk about it for next fiscal year and considering putting it into the budget for next fiscal year, and then we would implement the project as immediately thereafter. One of the big things is that rebates do kind of change as the year. Next year they could potentially be different. So that is something that is important to consider from a timing standpoint. I mean, it's $60,000, and they might go away next year. We don't know. I mean, we don't know what Ameren's going to do. So if it's something that we can do kind of right away at the end of the year, then that would be beneficial because we know you could get that rebate. Do you guys have any questions? And I tried to go through it pretty quick, the manager.
You said trying to get it into this year's budget?
Or for, like your fiscal, like October. Yeah.
2019.
Okay.
Yeah. But what we would do is if it did make it in 2019 budget, we would start work like immediately in October.
so.
And get it, we should be able to get it done by the end of the year. The only thing that we wouldn't be able to probably is the windows, but that doesn't impact the rebates. So windows have a longer lead time, but.
So to look at what you were talking about with the solar, would that be in something that you'd have to look into and would be part of this, or would that be something that would be aside from this?
That would something that would be separate from this, just because since it would be set up as a power purchase agreement, it would be through a different organization, through whoever partner that we bring to the table. So that would be a separate project, but we can definitely still consider it. If you guys are interested, we can look into it for you.
We definitely have those capabilities in-house to do this.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you for being
Okay,
here.
thank you so much for your time.
Coming out.
And obviously, as things come up, while you're reviewing the budget, and if anything else, any other questions, obviously, Darren knows how to get a hold of us. So,
Thank you. Thank you.
Report of department heads, Public Safety, Police, Traffic Committee.
Chief?
Good evening, everyone. First thing I wanted to update you on a little incident we had today. We had a response to a heroin overdose on the west side of town. So an officer responded, saw this, the victim was having an overdose, was purple, pinpoint pupils. So he used his Narcan on him. A couple of firemen were there. He borrowed a face mask to use to get the Narcan into the person's system to help revive him. The ambulance then got there. The subject was starting to breathe better. And then the officer got an intense headache and started shaking. He had been exposed to whatever the victim had taken.
Oh, no.
So we had to take him to the hospital to make sure he was okay. So he got contamination from treating this individual, but he is fine. And the victim is revived, and the officer's doing okay. So just want to let you know.
Was that normal? How'd that happen? I mean, I guess I shouldn't ask
This
that question.
person, this person snorted the heroin.
Okay.
So there's residue left on
Residue.
their face and their body. And given the quick reaction to the officer, I would guess that was fentanyl, because that is permeable to the skin. It gets in the system really quick, and you have your reaction. And because it's such a low dose, it had an effect, but he was okay. It wouldn't put him in danger. So But that's the kind of thing the guys face when they go out there.
So, okay, wow. Do they wear gloves when they do that at all, or they don't even
That's one
think?
thing that, in his exuberance to take care of this individual,
You forgot
he
to,
forgot to put his gloves on. He did after the fact, but by then it was too late.
okay, wow.
But he's
Scary.
doing well. So,
Scary stuff.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
I'm here to talk to you about a school resource officer agreement with the School District of Washington. I've included a copy of the agreement, a contract in front of you. The school district sent me a copy of the base contract that many schools used. I reviewed it, talked with administration about it, made some changes, sent it back to the school. They reviewed it, made a couple more changes, and after reviewing it, I agree with the changes. The changes mainly were to a school resource on number 5. School resource officers 5. School resource officers shall remain employees of the city and shall not be considered employees of the School District of Washington. However, the school resource officer will be authorized pursuant to this agreement to provide security in schools outside the city of Washington that are located within the school district. And 6, school resource officers shall have access to student information, discipline meetings, and administration meetings as the School District of Washington deems necessary, and subject to the confidentiality and privacy provisions, and it lists several acts or sections there. The school, we've talked about a third resource officer with the school for a couple of years. After some of the school shootings that had happened at times, specifically the one that happened most recently, the school felt very strong about getting an additional officer for extra security. We have run with 2 school resource officers for several years, 14 or 15, and it's always left out that the grade schools don't get the coverage that the middle school and the Washington high school gets. The third school resource officer, can I call them SROs just to make it simple?
You can say that.
Okay. Will take care of more being involved in the grade schools, stopping in the grade schools at various times or various buildings during the day or different times of the week, checking in with staff, seeing the students, doing programs going into the school district to those schools outside the district and interacting with them and helping with any problems they may have. For response-wise, if they're there acting as a security guard, they can deal with issues of trespass, someone causing a problem, and call the sheriff's department out. Mutual aid-wise, we have a mutual aid agreement with Warren County and the sheriff's department that if there's an incident that occurs, they can direct us to handle it. And as a police officer, if we are there and there's an incident occurring, we can deal with it. We can take action against it. The school has agreed to pay 75%. Before, it was a lot less than that. But they've agreed, and that 75% of the expense, including benefits of an officer. The 2 are covered for this year budget. The third one's prorated. That will be the new third SRO officer. To enact this, we would have to hire another officer. And you can think of them as being supplied by 75% of the salary from the school district. So what I would need is, and I have with me here Brendan Mahon from the Assistant Superintendent of School District of Washington, in case you have other questions. What I would need is for, you're okay to continue with the program, to look at getting a third SRO, pending Mark Piontek viewing the contract and your approval of the contract.
Ed, that 75%, is that with the new Prop P deal going on too?
No, this is outside of that 75%. Those officers, there's a set number of officers that is paid by Prop P. As of January 1st, that's 28 in the city. So so everybody's getting paid. The Prop P will cover raises for everyone. I'm looking at hiring the third officer outside of Prop P because I have ideas for another officer bus raises under Prop P. But
The officer you hire, will they automatically be the
no,
third SRO?
we have an officer that's
You have,
with
we have someone else.
anticipation, because somehow we're gonna get a third one there.
Okay.
There is an officer trained, ready to go into school in August 20th or 18th or whenever it starts.
So we're not really hiring a new SRO, we're hiring a
We
new
would be hiring a
officer.
new road officer,
that we
but
can-
we haven't a third SRO picked out. So the new officer would be at base rate.
And obviously, this section 5, we're talking about that officer being able to go to Martinsville, Augusta,
Yes.
et cetera,
Labadee, Clearview,
Labadee,
Lab,
everything out of city limits, right?
Campbellton,
Clearview.
what places like
Which
that.
only makes sense.
Anything that's in Washington school, any school that's in Washington school.
And what about the Lords and the Borgia High School? Is there anything?
We've talked about that. We do some basic DARE classes in that there, and they still visit, but the key will be to the Washington School District. But the amount of time to do a class, DARE class is only an hour. We can adjust their timing and making sure we get the school its service that it's paying us for and still be able to service the private schools. And we get more officers involved into visiting the private schools and walking in themselves, besides, which we should be doing at every school, every officer on the department.
Ed, as an SRO officer, are they there all day or is it?
They are scheduled to be there all day with 3 of them. There are certain events that we may have to adjust hours for. One would be the band parade or band festival. That would be a prom night or a graduation night. But most of the time, their schedule is at the schools during the day. That's their job. That's what we agreed to provide for the school. The school is also, and I'm waiting to hear back, brought forward a proposal that they pay officers overtime to work events at school. And that would include an SRO being able to work all day at school and then work an event that night for a few hours. So they wouldn't have to take away from schoolwork. I'm waiting to hear the final approval from the school. We've talked with the administration about it, got the okay with insurance and everything. So waiting to hear from the school on that.
So what you're saying is if you want an officer there for a football game, they don't have to leave, only work 4 hours during the day and 4 hours at night.
You
they
can
be
get
there all-
another officer to come in and
Sure.
work the football game.
I mean, that's where we want someone to be at, those large events, whether it be out football, basketball, whatever, yeah. And you said it's changing from 75% funded from the school district. What is it currently? Do we know?
It wasn't even 50%, so.
So realistically, the city's, we're on.
You are going
probably
from
less than-
65,000 a year last year and this year to 133,000
It was,
for this next year. And that's a yearly contract, so we'll review it every year, because in 2019, 2020, you will have Prop P raises, which would be reflected into the cost of the officers.
I think we've looked, the preliminary number was 166,000 for maybe year 2, but we'll have to look at that.
That's not prorating the third officer, and that's with the raises.
So have you budgeted for a new officer plus the SRO?
Have I budgeted? I have not. I've looked at it. Could we do it? It puts us really close. When we looked at Prop P, we looked at having a little bit of a reserve in case we have a short month for sales tax to make sure we can cover expenses.
Well, my opinion is we can't put a price tag on kids' safety. If we have an officer at every school or what we need to be, then that's where we need to be.
And we still have to discuss with the administration Prop P and how it's, what proportion, how it's going to be used to bring to you for approval. So,
Do you need a motion to go forward with this?
yes, a motion to go forward to approve the contract. They have a budget meeting at the school Wednesday night. I think they're going to present that there, and I believe
I'll actually, we haven't budgeted, but once we agree with the.
you could talk up, you could come up here and talk.
can you come up here?
Just tell them who you are.
Sure.
As if they don't know.
Sorry, my name is Brendan Mahon, Assistant Superintendent with the School District of Washington. I've been working closely with the chief on this and among other things, so we're actually excited about it. And I think as Jeff alluded to, you know, the financial impact for the city should be about revenue neutral for now, but for us, it's a commitment to, you know, providing safety. So what I have prepared for the board is just, it's built into our current budget. So once we have an agreement between the city and the district on that actual agreement, then that's, I think, when it would be finalized. But our board's aware of it. Our board's obviously very concerned about safety, and I think having another school resource officer present in the district is, there's probably nothing better that you can do other than that. I mean, obviously we're taking other means to try to provide students with more safety, but I think we felt like, and I'm confident the board will approve whatever we present to them, that upping our financial commitment, which I think is fair because Chief and his staff have done a very good job about making sure that those police officers are dedicated. School district, I think, also understands if there's an emergency situation and they can't be available, they can't be available. So it's been a very good partnership, and we're very comfortable with increasing our financial commitment, and I hope you are as well.
I agree that the safety should come first, like Jeff was talking about, and I think we need to proceed with this, so I'll make a motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Sullentrup, seconded by Patke, to proceed with the agreement for the school resource officers. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you very much.
By your vote, you approved that. And I
you very
suppose now you're moving forward, and then you'll come back with an official
Yes,
document.
we'll all move forward, and when the contract, we'll bring an official contract for presentation approval by council.
Okay. Thank you. New patrol vehicle, yeah.
And next item I have is a new patrol vehicle, 2 patrol vehicles on this year's budget for the police department. We did 3 bids, Lou Fuse, Joe Mockins, and we went to Offenburg locally. Lou Fuse was the bid based on what is provided, and gave the local business a chance, but they just cannot meet that state bid price. So the request is that you approve the Lou Fuse bid for a total of $82,914 for 2, should be 2018 Ford Interceptor SUVs, all black, and not 2016, should say 218. Then I also need approval, we always have equipment we purchase with those, so this is separate approval for 2 WatchGuard in-car cameras for $10,740 for the 2 cameras. And those cars come out outfitted. They're outfitted means they get the cage, the prisoner seat, the light bar, the radio, the consoles, all those different things that go in an upfitted police package car.
Chief, did we sell the one to Gerald?
Yes, we to Berger.
Merger.
4,000
Okay.
4,000 we got for that one.
Okay.
And the one that's left we'll put on Purple Wave auction. So
I'll make a motion to go ahead.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Sullentrup, seconded by Patke, to send this on to council. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? By your vote, you've sent it on. Thank you.
thank you.
Emergency management.
Good evening, council. We had a severe thunderstorm event during the Music at the Market. Fortunately, it was just heavy rain and some street flooding. No injuries. Pushed them back about an hour that evening, but made it nice afterwards because it was nice and cool following that. Gave a CPR class yesterday to 9 PD Explorer, the Explorer group. Went very well. My compliments to Chief. He has a couple of natural-born leaders in that group, and a nice group of young men and young women. So they're doing a good job with their Explorers. Continuing to work with administration towards getting our critical responders within the city a product called FirstNet. It does prioritization on cell phones. So in the event of overcrowding, those people get priority on the network and everyone else is pushed down on the network. So we're trying to find some money in the budget to make that happen. Still working on a new contract with Charter Spectrum to get the TV services throughout the city on one contract and at a lower price. And so there's just one bill monthly instead of all the separate bills for all the separate facilities within the city. The EPA held a public meeting June 5th at the KFC Hall. Some of you were there, regarding placing the old Sporland Valve Plant number 1 on 7th Street on what's called the National Priority List. And what that would do, that would step up federal funding to fund a cleanup rather than just what they're doing now, a mitigation. So we're continuing to work with representatives of the EPA, Missouri DNR, federal and state legislators to support that cleanup option. The goal in that's to have the property cleaned up, return to residential use, and also the city has a vested interest in it. Well number 4 is 6 blocks away. So we want to keep the ground, clean so we don't get migration infiltration of any chemicals into well number 4. Continuing to work with healthcare facilities on their safety plans. Looks like we're going to be working into pretty soon here renumbering the city hall floors and offices. We made a selection of a sign type, and what it'll have a vinyl cover, and when office members change, it's just a matter of popping the vinyl off and printing the name and putting it on there, so that changes in the future would have no expense to them, and would also give numbers to the offices, so the public comes in, they're at the wrong place, want to know where to go, then you can say, well, you want to go up to office 211 upstairs. It makes it easier for the public to understand how the city hall is numbered. Because it's a little awkward now with the basement, ground floor, 1 and 2, it doesn't flow well.
It's going to be 1, 2, and 3.
Exactly, it'll be lower level, LL for basement, and then 1, 2, 3 from there. It just flows better.
I'm glad you came on to take care of that.
Thank you. Yeah, those of you who've been around remember, like when it sort of was the problem, like when the hospital had, started off with floor number 1 for the basement, and then was 2, 3. So forth. It was just confusing for years. So we're just going to more or less follow, what they have done and just make it much cleaner. Working with the Fair Board on an updated safety plan and a tabletop exercise for an incident on the fairgrounds. We'll be doing that before the fair this year. We just need to come up with a mutually agreeable date. At the suggestion of Chief Menifee, we had a public safety meeting since Washington Ambulance is no longer dispatched by the city. We lost the meeting we used to have to where everybody got together and discussed any issues. So Chief brought up a real good idea. So we're now having that meeting bi-monthly, going back into getting all the emergency services in town together and just talk things out and make sure we're all on the same page. We did some cooling centers throughout the city during the recent hot weather. It looks like we're going to need it again at the end of the week. I've been appointed to serve as the Franklin County representative for the STARS Regional Hazmat Working Group, so that'll require some meetings in St. Louis quarterly. And we've been meeting with loss control specialists from our insurance broker, Daniel Henry, to update some of our policies and improve our training. Basically, we've had some significant work comp injuries in the past 5 years, so they analyzed that, and we just need to step up our efforts towards training. And then for information, Phillips Pipeline will be replacing a section of propane pipeline out on YY, so they'll be starting to work on that tomorrow and ending up Thursday. They'll be finished Thursday. You know about the bridge inspections this week, and we had the emergency services had a meeting with Mercy regarding mental health issues and how we can work together towards, some means to kind of improve the services for mental health throughout the area. So more to come on that. Any questions?
Questions?
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Thanks, Mark.
Parks and Recreation.
Darren?
I want to update you on several projects that have been going on. First of all, the roofing bids. As you know, that we've gone out for several packages with the roofing bids, and package A, which was brought to you guys probably a couple months ago for approval, we're finished up today. That included the pavilion at the riverfront, Optimus Park Pavilion, and Grace's Place, the back portion of that. The other bids that had come in, we have reviewed those. We are currently working with the insurance company. They're looking at what they had estimated the price to be opposed to what the real bids were, and there is a potential that we could get some more money for that, so we'll be bringing those forward to you hopefully pretty soon so we can get moving on those projects. Other things, we had the Community Work Day on June 16th. In the past, it was just a downtown cleanup day. This year, we expanded it to as a Community Work Day, and we did several projects. We had a very good turnout, and that really helped us out in the park system, getting some work done at several different parks. The disc golf course, to give you an update with that, as part of the work day, the Elks and the Lions were out there. We removed some fabric from the backstops and some other areas and started some initial work on the disc golf course, and hopefully within the next month we'll start proceeding with some hole locations and try to get the front 9 of the golf course completed with that. Also with the Lions Club, they have stepped forward and they're spending close to $27,000 for the replacement of the fountain out at Lions Lake. That has been ordered and should be in hopefully within the next week or so. We've already moved forward and had that line bored for the three-phase electric, and so hopefully that project will be done here in the next 2 to 3 weeks.
Will they use the same electric that's out in the lake now?
Yes.
Not in the lake now, no.
Not in the lake, not the same wiring. We'll have to have new wiring that'll run from the fountain.
From the main stage, it'll run over there, and it'll be 3-phase electric, so you can run a better motor and pump than it was before.
Yeah, we'll go from a 5 horsepower single phase to a 10 horsepower
Now, is that
3-phase.
motor in the lake, or is that on the side of the lake?
No, that's part in the fountain in the lake.
Hope it don't leak.
Yeah. Also, from a project standpoint with the public safety building, we put in new HVAC unit in the foyer area, so keep that nice and cool for the chief. Good. And lastly, with the Riverfront Trail, we've been working with engineering and the street department for the past several months on that. The asphalt is down, striping went down this last week. We're still moving forward with some signage and some other things, and I think Darren might want to address.
The other thing I was going to mention, we talked about it at the department head meeting, about, after they had completed the striping. We're still trying to see, if the public can go ahead, if we can separate or keep the motorists separated from the pedestrian portion of it. After talking with department heads today, I know we had a meeting with, the dock owners down there, I don't know when it was, a couple months ago, I guess, before we started this process. And I know that maybe at that time it had seemed like maybe a thing to go ahead and delay or not put down any solid white stripe along that trail. But after reviewing this, I go down there on a occasional basis in the morning, look at the the people that are using it. We still have some confusion. Granted, not all the things that Darren just mentioned have been implemented yet. We'll have some more signage, but we would really strongly suggest, I talked with the police department, engineering, Darren, et cetera, everybody this morning at our department head meeting. We are going to strongly recommend that you allow us to go ahead and put the white stripe down on that trail. That's not going to impede any of the motors from having to get into that area if they have to turn around, et cetera. I think we always realize that may happen, and we know that that's a tight spot down there. But anything we can do to go ahead and make sure that the pedestrians feel safe. I'm starting to gradually see that the pedestrians are no longer. For a while there, we had cars on the paved area. And we had, pedestrians on the area where we put the millings in, and that's the opposite of what we wanted. So I think with these other changes, we'll start to see people putting themselves where they're supposed to be down there. But we would strongly recommend if we can go ahead and move forward with striping that lane. That's not, like I said, it's not going to impede the by dock owners down there from turning around or anybody else that has to get access down there. And we're also looking at some, I guess, what do they call, breakaway bollards that you would call them? Or,
Yeah, they're actually in. We installed those this morning.
oh, you did?
Yeah, so they're in probably halfway, which is about 850 feet down from where the parking lot ends, down the trail. We put essentially, they're not brick, they're flexible bollards, essentially, kind of like where you see at Lafayette where the pedestrian crossing is over top of the tracks. It's just a white bollard, stands about 24 inches tall. They're actually in the center of the trail now to try to kick people back over into the millings, and they extend the
The
pressure.
driver, motorists.
Yeah, the motorists, just to try to keep them from continuing down the asphalt. So they're in right now. They are stuck to the asphalt with a, it's like a, just an adhesive is what it is. So they could just as easily be pulled back off, but we thought that was an easy way and we had the materials in-house. So that's been taken care of. So if you get an opportunity, you can check that out too.
So I guess the only thing I would ask is, as I think it was stated in the past, that we would not stripe that lane. We were asking you to go ahead, and our recommendation is to stripe it. So,
I think that now that the project's about 95% complete, and with driving down, seeing the striping that Tony and them guys did, I think it will probably help having that stripe continued on all the way down. So at least give the direction to the people which way they should be walking, because there's people walking in that millings with
In the
their
millings.
dogs and bikes, and maybe that'll help. I think that's what we should do.
good. Hopefully, the rest
Got
of
a
the
motion?
council feels that
Yeah.
way.
Second.
So we have a motion by Solentrup, seconded by Patke, to recommend striping the trail, the new part of the trail. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? By your vote, you've striped the trail. Thank you.
I don't have anything else to report, but if anybody has any questions.
Aaron and I was going around the park out there yesterday about 8 o'clock in the morning, and there was several people walking around the lake, and 3 people stopped me and said, "Why are the bathrooms locked up?" Do you have any idea?
At 8 in the morning? They shouldn't be. Our crews get there, well, depending, we have one crew that's coming in at 6 and another one coming in at 7, and that's usually one of the first things they do is go around and unlock
Said they
and start
checked
cleaning.
All 3 of them, and I said, "Okay, I'll run around and check them." So I checked all 3 of them over there, and they were all locked.
And that was yesterday? Okay, on a weekend, we have limited people, so it could be that they were diverted for some reason somewhere else, but I will check into it. But usually, those are open first thing in the morning.
The public safety building foyer air conditioning. We said we're out for bids, but it's already in, is that
No.
right?
What you have here is the May report that we went out for bids, but since that time, we do it, but it was below our threshold to bring it to council.
Gotcha.
for
So it's
approval.
taken care of.
So it's taken
And
care
that's
of now.
It's working.
The very first door you walk, the email we got from someone who said it was terrible, we had it that way, it's taken care of.
Well,
Yes.
that was on a Sunday or whatever, and they put it in on Monday and Tuesday or
great.
whatever.
That's
So-
Yeah. go.
Okay, so on a 90-degree day, if you walked in the foyer, it's about 105 degrees in the foyer.
Right.
So now if you walk in the foyer, it feels really nice. So.
Yeah.
And basically, this was a two-phase project. The first phase, yeah, our first phase, we came in and we insulated the ceiling. It wasn't insulated in the initial construction of the building, and that helped reduce some of the heat. Now putting in the new HVAC,
So it worked at one time and then just quit working, and nobody.
it was working, but it was a small size unit, not big enough to really handle that area. And plus, with not having the insulation in the ceiling, it wasn't holding anything, so with the two. And the process, it took us a little while to go through this process. We talked to several companies to get their recommendation, to come out and look at it, what would take care of the problem. Out of, I think, the 4 companies that we had, 2 of them came back with the exact same thing. And then when we brought on our energy consultants, we had them look at it. They verified that was what needed to be done as well. And then we went out for formal bids for that and got the project taken care of.
Okay.
Yeah, it was completed real quick.
Thanks, Darren.
All right, any other questions?
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Community and economic development.
Sal?
0.
Just real quick, we are preparing for a prospect to come into town this week, Project Hood. It's actually their second visit. Their investors are flying in tomorrow, and then we'll be meeting with them Wednesday morning, hopefully to pitch what we can offer them. We've been talking to them for a couple months, well, about 6 months now. So hopefully, I've been working on that. Hopefully, we can come to provide them something that'll interest them on Wednesday. We're making headway on the Locust Street redevelopment. That's the property next to the Frykes Trailer Park, and we're negotiating with the adjoining property owners. Hopefully, if we can come to an agreement on that in the coming weeks, we'll get that RFQ out to transfer that property to 353 and actually get that redevelopment started. I'm working with Andrea on the Bush Creek Greenway, moving that forward. She's providing the engineering plans to submit to MoDOT for approval. We did send out our letters to the property owners that we're going to be acquiring right-of-way from, which is mostly the school district, and just working with them to make sure they have everything they need along the South Point Elementary there, and then making sure we have the room along the creek. And then P&Z is actually going out this week, the packets for July. All the things that were postponed last month are going back on, and we did have some additional applications, so should be a decent-sized packet. And they are going out a little bit early because I'll be here next Monday for the council meeting, but I'll be gone the rest of the week on vacation. So if you need anything from me, I'm available till Monday. So.
Any questions or comments?
All right, thank you.
Public services?
Okay, good evening. Try to give a quick update on what's going on around town. As you are aware, the airport project is taking substantially a lot longer than we initially anticipated. As of today, it's 57 days over the allotted contract time. There is a provision within the contract to pay liquidated damages of $750 a day. So there's a substantial amount of money that is being left on the contractor. It is 40%. 40% of the initial phase one has been completed. They did get some concrete down Thursday of last week. That concrete needs to cure 7 days, and then they'll come in and fill in the rest of the areas. So I would hope that phase one would be completed by the end of next week. So we're moving, albeit very slow. There were some issues with some base rock that they could not get supplied. The closest supplier was St. Joe. So they were actually trucking base rock in from St. Joe. So you can imagine that's quite a process. Now, they bid the job. That's not an excuse. I just want everybody to know that that is the situation out at the airport. We've been working pretty close with the FBO and letting everybody know what the delays are, and I think I have briefed everyone on this multiple times. Any questions on that?
Yes, you might want to tell them about the $750 a day goes back into the entitlement money.
Yeah, perfect. Yes, the $750 a day of the 57 days, so that it'll be added upon yet because every day that goes by is an extra day of the contract. Those dollars actually go back, they come off the contract price. So this is a 90-10 cost share. We pay essentially 10 cents on the dollar to do this job because we are given money from MoDOT to complete projects like this. The remaining 90% of the $750 a day goes into our entitlement funding bank account, if you will. So we don't lose those dollars. They just go into the account that we can draw upon at a later date. So for example, our striping project that we're trying to get out the door early, this year as well, we can draw on those dollars, those liquidated damage dollars that were not spent. So the dollars come right off the top of this contract and then go back in essentially to the bank account to pay for future projects. Does that make sense? Okay. And I know there was some clarification because we had liquidated damages paid on other projects. The hangar was an example, and I think there was some confusion where the money went to. Did it just go back into the MoDOT big pot of money and get lost within the airport process? No, it goes back into our bank account, for future projects. So that's
a chance that they can appeal any of that?
Oh yeah, for sure. And there will be some discussions about that when phase one is over. Contracts firm will be working. We'll be working with CMT, our consultant, on that, but if I was them, I would want to try to get some of those monies back. So I don't know what that process is yet. It could involve some negotiation, weather days, things of that nature. I'll keep you briefed on what that is. At a minimum, we should make sure that we get our lost fuel sales back, which is pretty low amounts of money. This is exponentially higher with this. It's not a positive, but it's a way for us to get some money back on it. Our MS4 audit was complete approximately 2 weeks ago now. DNR was on site Tuesday and Thursday. We looked at, the first day we looked at city facilities. So we specifically went to Public Works, went to the Parks Department, took a look at what are we doing to ensure the quality of the water we're releasing from those facilities is up to what we're required to do by the Clean Water Act. One item that was identified, and I don't mean to speak for Darren, but one item that was identified at the Parks office was the wash bay that is outside, just to the east of the existing Parks building. It actually has a pipe that has a kind of a manufactured separator that goes directly to the creek, the City Park Creek. Now, we do not use detergents, we do not do any of that, but that is a big no-no in DNR's eyes. So I'm going to be working with Darren on trying to figure out, can we change something operationally where he brings his vehicles out to Public Works, where we do have a separator, we do have those places in, or can we look at putting in some sort of a holding tank, you know, maybe a 1,200 gallon, 1,500 gallon holding tank, and to get us through a few washes, then we physically go out there and pump the water out. But there's some, you know, low item, you know, low hanging fruit cost, I think that we could get that taken care of. That was one specific item, though, that really came out of that. That was a pretty big deal. We also then visited various construction sites, did SWIP, which is essentially the silt fence and things, stormwater pollution prevention on construction sites. Overall, it went pretty well. We lacked a lot in our public education side. What that means is essentially us getting flyers out, getting booths up, getting people on board to, hey, stormwater, water that enters the storm sewers, so the basins, the grates you see along streets, ends up in the creeks and in the river. They do not go to a wastewater treatment plant like you do when you flush a toilet. It's a totally different process. So anytime you see somebody dumping leaves in a storm sewer, you know, we need to get people knowing that ends up in creeks and ends up, anytime you see grass clippings dumping in the back on a creek bank, you know, I'm just thinking of some things that maybe you guys have maybe seen around. But make sure you notify me of that, so at the very least, I can make a phone call and reach out to these individuals and let them know that, hey, you know, this is a violation of the city's MS4 permit. And that we need to be following up with enforcement on this. And when I mean enforcement, I mean quite potentially issuing stop work orders on construction projects, things of that nature. DNR is being pushed pretty heavily by the EPA, so it kind of comes down. EPA makes DNR enforce us, and then we need to be doing that internally as well. Another big item that I've been kind of harping on maybe a little bit, or just making everybody notified, is they call them post-construction BMPs, base management practice. So it's essentially a way to clean the stormwater before it gets released to the creeks. Now, not in the sense of you scrub it, but one idea that you could think of is sand filters, potentially on all construction sites. Maybe taking the downspouts rather than pipe them to the curb and gutter, putting them in infiltration basins in the front yards. You know, we don't have this program, but we got to build this program. And this is kind of the first step in that. I hope to have the report in the next couple weeks. They did make me aware that we probably will get a letter of warning. A letter of warning is one step below a notice of violation. If you get a notice of violation, it is just that we're in violation of our MS4 permit. They're just warning of us that, you know, what they saw during their audit, that we are in violation. So we need to take measures to kind of heed that, you know, head that off. It is a program building, though, so it's not something that's going to happen overnight. We have nothing in code. We have no specifications, really. We don't have a firm inspection process really on our detention basins right now. They've never been inspected to my knowledge. So just keep in mind, this is a pretty big deal for us to go through this. It's no different than program building for water or wastewater.
John, when were we initially required to start working with this MS4?
City became an MS4 in 2003. So it's any entity that has a population of 10,000 or greater, and then there's also a component of density. So, for example, Franklin County doesn't have they're greater than 10,000, but they don't meet the density requirements. So, since we're 10,000 and more, we're required to go to get this permit, and it's through the Clean Water Act. The only other city in Franklin County is Union. And I think they were an MS4 over the past couple of years, and they're allowed like a grace period before they start being required. They're allowed to build their program, essentially. So luckily, I've been part of a few audits and program building, so I think the pieces are here. It's just, it's going to be it has the potential to be a little bit of a shock to the construction industry.
And without having specifications, can we warn the construction companies, as far as having, pamphlets and this is what's going to happen, this is what's going to come in the next time you build a subdivision, this may be required or whatever.
Yeah, we've been definitely notifying all people who have grading permits per se, and all developers that we're going through this audit process, and that we want to be a partner with them, come to the table so we can all sit down and what is the right thing for Washington. I don't have that answer yet because we haven't gotten the report back, and I don't want to necessarily, get out ahead of it too much, But yeah, I mean, they're going to have to be a partner in what we do. There's, a bunch of ways to solve this, a lot of ways to solve this problem, anywhere from infiltration basins to just taking some perforated pipe and looping it in a backyard, or not running downspouts to a curb and gutter would be one way to do it. Quite honestly, one that you would have to maybe address is paving. I use the term paving the world, but look at our paving practices, not having the JCPenney type parking lot, where it's just a sea of asphalt. Because for every piece of concrete or asphalt you put in the ground, you have to treat that somehow. So it's an exponential cost to the developer. If you just left it in grass, you don't have to treat it. And then you don't have to pay for the asphalt. So it's really just changing a little bit of a mindset. It's just a different way of looking at things. And I have not, I need to work with DNR on figuring out what the enforcement arm is, what happens after a notice of violation. I've never been through a situation where they say they fine you $500 a day, or I don't know that right here. This is just this is not new at all. This is happening all over, and quite honestly, we've taken our time to get to this point. So it's just something we will address. Some quick operational things. 5th Street paving is scheduled to be done tomorrow. The 5th Street and Hancock. So that whole intersection there that's got the bump, the 2 trenches that were in that was not final. We're just trying to get to a point where we can repave the entire intersection. Reason why we did it is we had a water main break there a couple years ago, so we made a decision to get a smooth transition right there on 5th Street and Hancock. It just made the most sense. So the mill is actually on site, and asphalt hopefully would be commencing tomorrow around noon, but there will be a closure tomorrow on 5th Street between 47 and Hancock. So keep that in mind that we're going to try to get that done in one day. Oak Street, I know Kevin still needs to finish up the water line up there. He's been pulled all over the place, quite honestly. But that's got to get finished. It's got to tie into the 5th Street water line. So there's still some work to do. There is a broom sitting there, so public just needs to be cautious of any, there's construction still going on at Oak Street. We do have the plans on that, probably to 80% right now. The repaving of Oak Street, that is in the budget. It was identified last year, but it would be sidewalk, complete removal and replacement of sidewalk and curb and gutter. It's not in a serviceable condition anymore, and doing an overlay like we always do. That'll be one project that we'll just do a complete rebuild on, and there will be ADA sidewalks in every ADA ramp that we can get our hands on in that general area. So Bluff Road is one of the biggest projects we've probably done in some time. I keep reiterating this. I cannot stress enough how terrible this project is going to be for the industry base. Bluff Road will have 2 closures. I don't know the schedule yet because we are not been allowed to push forward with we've awarded the contract, but MoDOT has to review all that, and then before the money gets actually issued. So there will be a closure at Emmy Frank Drive and Lang Drive for a full pavement reconstruction. That will stagger the Bluff Road closure between 100 and West Link. So those won't be done at the same time, but it's all part of the same project. 90 days to complete the project. I'm working really hard to get that done or started at the mid to end July. So this is coming up pretty quick. My plan is to go door to door if I have to every industry, every single day, whatever it takes, to keep everybody informed give them the knowledge of what's going on in the schedule, because this will be very, very fluid. I've been informed that paving may happen at night, just to keep schedule and to get things kind of rolling. But I know with the temporary signal at Vosbrink and 100, I would just ask patience for people driving through Washington, and just be very, very aware of your surroundings and driving, because there is some sight distance issues there too at Vosbrink and 100. So.
Will that go up at the same time as the paving on between Frike and Lang, the signal out on Vosbrink?
Yeah,
or?
I don't know. I mean, I think what you'll have, what you'll see is the signal will probably be going up at the exact same time, but Bluff Road will remain open, because you got to be able to get one place to the other. We're probably going to have 3, 4, maybe a week, where if you're coming westbound on 100 and you have to get to like the old Powell's Drive or Powell's Transformer, if you're coming westbound on 100, you may go in Vosbrink like you've done ever since you've ever worked there, and then it's closed at Lang Drive and Frike. Then you got to turn around and go Bluff to get in, because that section will be closed. But people will get used to that after a few days of doing that and being a little late for work.
Is there going to be signing out on the highway?
There is, yeah. There's a pretty significant signage package. I think 4 changeable message signs, and it'll be fluid as well. So, like I said, I would just stress patience. And if you get any concerns, forward them to me. It's what I've committed to my entire summer. So, landfill's going well. We are still waiting on the liner. I don't have an update on when that is. There's a holdup in manufacturing right now. We are going to cover the clay liner up with 6 inches of dirt. What that does is it keep the moisture content up high, so then we can peel that off and then put the geotextile liner down. So right now we do have a low bid. You guys did approve that contract. And once I get that schedule and we get that liner in, but we do have a contingency there to allow trash to continue to come into the landfill. Other than that, I'm working with Tony pretty diligently on with operations, just to make sure that we're making that as efficient as we possibly can. But that's just one item we're working together on. Anything else? Thank you.
Today, John, is John's birthday.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
It is my birthday.
Happy
All
birthday.
right, happy birthday.
Street and solid waste.
Good evening. Let's see, with the street department, we have finished striping at the riverfront. We still have, as Darren mentioned, 3 more signs to put up. We have some weed eating to do and a little bit of cleanup. We're also doing some asphalt repairs around town, including around the fairgrounds. We have some landfill work. 2 of my landfill operators have been on vacation last week, so we've been kind of augmenting them with our own operators. We're looking to maybe do some parking lot sealing next month, depending on the weather. We're going to start putting all the posts in for the fireworks display for the no parking signs around Grand, around fairgrounds and everything. And we are continuously mowing citywide. We have numerous sign repairs. I don't know if anybody saw all the signs down on Front Street from the weekend. Like somebody just went down and plucked them all out like daisies. So we do have numerous signs to put in, and we are still spraying weeds throughout the sidewalks and the streets. Same stuff.
Any questions of Tony?
Sound busy.
Always. All right, thank you.
Quick question. I see them, they're spraying Roundup on all these weeds and sidewalks and gutters. You just don't weed eat them first, or?
We have areas that we do weed eat, but the preferred way is to spray them so it kind of kills them off and don't come back. Thanks.
May ask me that, but I'll ask.
Thank you, Tony.
Finance?
Mary?
For finance, working on the annual budget. Darren and I will be meeting with department heads probably this week or the next 2 weeks. And that's really all I have for finance. IT, I've asked all the departments to come up with a computer, printer, copier inventory so that we can assess the future needs of the city in that respect, and maybe possibly get something in the budget at looking at replacing some of those equipment needs. That's really all I have, unless you guys have questions.
Any questions?
Keep spending.
Thank you.
Library.
Claire?
Hello. Okay, so I noticed, and I mentioned to my board earlier, that last month or in April, we're a month behind, so we were a little under 9,000, and I thought that was weird. Well, we made it up this month, so May we had over 16,000 people come in the library. Everybody just swarmed us after school, and the first week of summer reading was insane. We're handling it pretty well. Ruth's still not back. Hopefully next week, maybe she can start half days, but doctor still told her she can't put full weight on her foot at this point. So we've got wonderful people filling in. We're just wearing multiple hats covering. We had almost 2,000 items come in from Scenic and from different Evergreen libraries across the state. So I know tonight, Brenda said the biggest batch that she's put together was 147 items in one evening. So it took her at least an hour, if not more, to do that. So that's stuff that we don't have to spend money on, that we can borrow from other places, and it works out pretty well for our patrons. They're spoiled, and they enjoy that. We had about 400 people come in for programs, 56 programs, or 56 uses of the meeting room, 23 for the library. Every year we've pushed that up. So last year around this time we had 17 programs in May. That's usually our planning month. We're tying up loose ends, getting ready for summer reading. But we actually had more programs leading up to summer reading programs. So my staff does a really good job with their programming. And the Friends of the Library have been stepping up and offering really awesome speaker series. So if you haven't attended one, we had 75 people come to the last one, and it was, I gotta think about what that one was about. It was about POW camps in Missouri. Bill Stewart, one of the Friends of the Library members, did that program, and we had 75 people come. We kept having to pull chairs down, so we decided we're not putting tables out next time. We have too many people showing up. So that's a good problem to have. So I'm working with Wash PC still. Our Wi-Fi is not working the way I want it to, but we're figuring out it's more of a network issue, so we're still working. And hopefully that will get better. Our Wi-Fi usage actually did go up instead of going down, which was a good thing for us lately, but we're working on all of that because we want to provide reliable service.
Any questions of Claire?
Claire, will you look into one thing for me?
Mm-hmm.
Whenever you are checking out a book
Yes.
that you can't see into the office, like where your office is and a couple
Yes.
others, where it's just like there's no privacy at all looking that way. Maybe like a one-sided film where the public can't just see in and see everything. We've got boxes, you got books coming in,
Mm-hmm.
and et cetera, and you can still see out where you could see if they need help at the counter.
Yeah.
I didn't make it to the meeting last month, so now Gretchen,
Okay.
you can take care of that now. But I
Okay.
just think it'd be something. My kids went in there for summer
Yeah.
to check out books, and it's like you just see everything going on in the office. So
Yeah.
maybe a little bit of privacy would be better if it's not too costly. Maybe a film on the windows or something like that. So
Okay.
check it out. Thank you.
Yeah.
Anything else?
All right.
Thanks, Claire.
Thank you.
Human Resources.
Evening. Just quick report on hiring. Seems to be what I do a lot of these days when I talk to you, but that's a good problem. As long as we get the right people, right? So we did have a new hire for dispatch trainee. That was an open position that we had. There is still one more dispatch trainee position open, so that replaced one of the ones we had, and then we had a resignation. So we do have still one more dispatcher trainee position open. We also still have open maintenance worker 1 in our parks department. which was a retiree. And then we have one refuse collector position that opened in our street department. So those are our three open positions. We've received quite a few applications for the maintenance worker and refuse collector. Dispatch trainee we're doing well on. Several are repeat applicants, but we'll get reviewing those. Lisa is out of the office until July 2nd, so when she gets back, she'll have a nice stack to look through. On our building official, we are in the interview process with that position. So we have done initial interviews for our building official, and we are preparing to do a second round interview for that position. And I wanted to note that we have seen an increased use of our online postings. So we used some online methods this last go around to get the word out a little bit quicker and save some cost. And I had quite a few applicants that came back in that said they had found our job postings online on our city website, on our city Facebook page, and then also through our Indeed careers page that we have created. So those are some great ways that we can get that out there and back. And I've received several printed applications where folks have gone to our website, printed that out, and brought it back in. So I think our using technology has helped us, and I'm seeing an uptick in that, which is great. That's it on hiring, unless there's questions about hiring or methods or anything. And then the other thing I wanted to report, because I've been speaking to you about, is the time clock system through ExecuTime, and that is now in the pilot phase. So our 3 pilot groups are actually starting that process where they're using both our old system and our new system side by side, doing a parallel test for the next 2 payrolls. And then we hope to, by the 3rd payroll, everything, work out any kinks or any glitches that there might be, anything specific to the city that we would need to adjust. And that 3rd payroll, we would do that. And then by that 4th payroll, have all of our city employees working on clocking in and out on the new system. We did show that system to employees in a training here in the council chambers, and it will be where they can actually see their time cards now. So there was a lot of great questions, a lot of interest. It'll be a great system to use, and we can build on it in the future to help with scheduling for some of our departments, as well as maybe at some point being where you can request your time off online. So there's a lot of capability there we're not using right at the beginning, but we will eventually.
Any
That's all I
questions of Shauna?
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
City Clerk, do you want me to go up there, or you want me to report? You can do it right there. Okay. We received the invitation to the Franklin County Municipal League Dinner, which is hosted by Pacific. It's July 18th. If you could let me know if you plan on attending by next week, Monday, I'd appreciate it. And I'm just working on getting the next council packet together. Any questions?
Okay.
Administration.
Thank you.
Just to follow up on a couple items that were already discussed with you tonight, as Mary mentioned, we're going to be looking at the budget, and I'm working on that. You heard the presentation from CTS. We got to take that into consideration. Also, I've kind of, John and I have briefly talked, and again, it's premature until we get the audit findings back from the MS4, but once we receive that, we've talked about using our stormwater fund as a possibility. I mean, it's a logical place for us to go ahead and use those funds to help us go ahead and get in compliance with that. But it's going to be as John has mentioned over and over again, it's going to be a phased approach. So, but there is, a funding source there for us to use, especially when you start talking about outreach to the general public, those types of things. So keep that in mind, and we're going to be looking at that in the future for the budget. Also, the Aquatic Complex Committee is going to be meeting this Thursday, the 28th at 3:30. They'll have their initial meeting. And I'll be assisting Sal with Project Hood this week when those guys come into town on Wednesday morning. One other item I will tell you is we are looking, Shauna and I have asked the department heads to give us any proposed changes that they see to the personnel policy manual. We discussed an item today at department head. I won't bore you with that specific topic, but I will tell you, rather than wait for all of the changes that we'd like to see in that personnel policy manual, we will probably be bringing some of them in piecemeal, stuff that we feel is important that we go ahead and do. So we'll be bringing those to you and make those recommendations and then present those to you, because those will have to be changed by ordinance. And obviously, we'll go through our legal review as well as we go along that process. Another item that we have, or that just as a follow-up, Darren Dunkel, John Nildis, and myself met with UP back on May 29th. We talked to them at that time, and this gets back to the trail. As you'll recall, there was an agreement that was made with the city and some other parties with regards to putting up fencing down there along the riverfront. We had hoped that maybe we could talk to UP maybe at that time and suggest to them that rather us spend the money on a fence that was suggested way before we had the design of where the trail is today, and possibly use it where we thought would be even a better or safer area for them to go ahead and use. At that meeting, though, they expressed basically to keep the location of the fence of where it is, which for us is a lot of places within areas that the general public will not even see. I mean, it's you know, a lot of it's going to be in some of those brushy areas that, like I said, you won't be able to see. So I've asked Aaron to take a look and see in our inventory of fencing. For starters, it doesn't have to be one. We have to turn it into UP for them to approve the design. John's got the contact for that on how we can go ahead and move forward with that. But we will put in the better looking type fencing that you presently see down here on the eastern portion of the trail. We'll put that in stuff where the general public can see it along the trailway to the west. But the other areas where it's down in the woods, we're going to recycle some of the fencing that we've got. There's no reason not to, because, like I said, the general public's not going to see that. They had expressed their concerns of general public finding a footpath, and you know, what they'd say once that's there, they've seen this in other places where they feel very strongly about keeping the fence where that initial agreement was. We thought that it would probably be better suited other places, but at the end of the day, that's what they said. So we're going to move forward with that.
Do we have to start all the way down where our trail ends, down by the St. John's Creek?
I can't remember. Do you remember the exact location, Darren?
Basically, where the crossing is over the city creek that comes from the park that comes through, that's basically the end of that property. So basically from there, all the way down to the boat club, right down in that area. It just covers that piece of property.
A lot of fence.
It is a lot of fence. So like I said, we're looking to see what we can go ahead and recycle in those areas that the general public will not see, so that we can save on those costs. And but we are. I've asked Darren to go ahead and do that. This agreement has been put in place for quite some time, and the city really needs to move forward with having that done. It kind of came to light when we finished up this connection with the trail, or got the trail open, basically. That's it. The only other item I think I mentioned to you, I do have one item for you. It'll be a quick item in executive session, unless you have any questions.
Any questions?
Council comments?
Any comments from council?
Just that I won't be here next week due to vacation.
Oh, okay. Anyone else?
Yeah, I just want to say happy birthday to the birthday boy.
John Nilgis.
Public vote on whether or not to hold a closed meeting to discuss personnel, legal, and real estate matters pursuant to Section 610.021 RSMO 2000. Heidrich.
Aye.
Holtzmeyer.
Aye.
Patke.
Yes.
Pettit.
Yes.
Scornia.
Yes.
Sullentrup. Waterman.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you all.